welcome to VNews Podcast Daily and following are today's headlines.
The 20th ASEAN Summit concluded on April the 4th, following the adoption of the Phnom Penh Declaration. President TRUYnh suggested boosting cooperation in the field of high technology with the Chinese province of Yunnan. Vietnam's industrial production value rose by 4.1% in the first quarter, lower than the level in the same period last year.
The 20th ASEAN Summit concluded on April 4th. After 2 days of sitting, the summit adopted the Phnom Penh Declaration on ASEAN, One Community, One Destiny, and several reports and documents on promoting ASEAN cooperation.
This year's theme, One Community, One Destiny, expresses the bloc's commitment to continue implementing the construction of the ASEAN community. The declaration also stresses ASEAN continues to uphold the joint commitments specified in the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the East Sea and principles recognized by international laws, while working towards building a code of conduct. ASEAN leaders also approved the Phnom Penh Agenda on ASEAN community building and the Declaration on a drug-free ASEAN. Addressing the plenary session, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng said that Vietnam fully agrees with this year's theme. He affirmed that a united, strong and closely connected ASEAN not only serves the common interest of the region, but is also the strategic goal of each member nation. It will also serve as a firm foundation for the bloc to enhance its role in the region and in the international arena. Dũng suggested that member countries should work out effective measures to realize the ASEAN community goal.
On the sidelines of the ASEAN Summit, the Prime Ministers of Vietnam and Singapore met on April 3rd.
They affirmed the necessity to consolidate the common stance on the East Sea to boost peace, stability, security and safety in maritime in the region. Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng and his Singaporean counterpart Lee Hsien Loong also said any disputes among parties concerned in the East Sea issue need to be settled in a peaceful manner based on international laws, including the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the East Sea, while working towards building a code of conduct in the East Sea. The two expressed their pleasure at the development of relations between the two countries in recent times and agreed that they would continue to create favorable conditions for each other in trade and investment. The two sides also agreed to push early signing of agreements in the fields of hygiene and quarantine of animals and vegetation to boost trade in farm produce and encourage Singaporean businesses to invest in Vietnam's Phu Quoc Island.
President Trương Tấn Sang hosted a reception for visiting Yunnan Governor Lee Chi-hung in Hanoi on April 3rd. He suggested Yunnan cooperate with Vietnam in the field of high technology.
The president expressed his hope that when the Hanoi-Lào-Cai highway is completed, trade and economic exchange between Vietnam and the Chinese province will increase. Yunnan Governor Lee Chi-hung said that relations between Vietnam and China are a valuable asset and that Yunnan highly values its friendship and solidarity with Vietnam. He told President Sang that China wants Yunnan to become a key channel for the country to strengthen diplomatic cooperation with Southeast Asian and South Asian countries. Lee also invited Vietnamese enterprises to participate in an upcoming trade exhibition in Yunnan. He said it will help raise the two-way trade turnover.
National Assembly Chairman Nguyễn Sinh Hùng received Romanian Ambassador Dumitru Olaru and Iraqi Ambassador Faris Al-Ani in Hanoi on March 3rd at the end of their term in Vietnam.
At the reception given to the Romanian ambassador, National Assembly Chairman Hùng said the relationship between Vietnam and Romania has recorded developments in various fields during the ambassador's term of office in the country. He said he hoped the Romanian diplomat will continue supporting the two countries' relations. For his part, Ambassador Dumitru Olaru affirmed that Romania highly rated Vietnam's national construction and development, and Vietnam is always a trustful friend and good partner of Romania. At another reception to Iraqi Ambassador Faris Al-Ani, National Assembly Chairman Hung congratulated Iraq on its political stability, national reconstruction, and economic development. He proposed increasing the exchange of high-ranking delegations and cooperation between the two parliaments and governments, as well as coordination at international and regional forums. Ambassador Faris Al-Ani spoke highly of Vietnam's potential and said he hopes Vietnam will actively involve in the reconstruction process in Iraq.
A national conference took place in Hanoi on April 3rd and 4th to review external news service and the dissemination of information on the country's sea, islands, and border demarcation last year.
The deputy head of the party's Central Commission for Popularization and Information, Bùi Thế Đức, said in 2011, the world and region had experienced many complex changes. He said that news services designed for foreign audiences had helped to provide foreigners and Vietnamese, both at home and abroad, with an insight into the situation in Vietnam and the world, as well as the nation's diplomatic policy of independence, self-reliance, peace, cooperation, and development. During their two-day debate, the delegates heard performance reports from the Steering Committee on External Information Services and local agencies involved in the field.
On April 3rd in Hanoi, nearly 240 businesses from the Chinese province of Yunnan attended an economic and trade forum.
The event was jointly organized by the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Yunnan chapter of the Chinese Council for the Promotion of International Trade. Last year, two-way trade between Vietnam and Yunnan passed $1 billion for the first time, reaching $1.21 billion, of which Vietnamese exports to Yunnan earned almost $241 million. Officials from Yunnan province suggested that both parties should promote Vietnam's export, create trans-border economic zones, and step up integration in the regional monetary market. A number of export-import contracts were also signed at the event.
Vietnam's industrial production index rose by 4.1% in the first quarter, reported by the Ministry of Industry and Trade on April 3rd. However, growth is still lower than the same period last year.
During the same period, the national GDP went up 4% year-on-year, lower than last year's 5.57%. Most sectors and industries encountered difficulties in production and business, with the inventory index in the early March increasing by 34.9% from 1 year ago. While domestic producers are facing challenges selling their products, exporters saw positive trading results, making $24.5 billion in revenue in the first quarter, a year-on-year rise of 23.6%. The optimistic growth in exports also resulted in a falling trade deficit, which now stands at $251 million, the lowest level so far. Economists also forecast that the business climate will remain tough in the near future, which will impact on domestic production and trading.
Construction of a 30-megawatt wind power plant started on April 3rd at the Nhân Ho Industrial Park in Central Bình Định Province.
The Clean Energy Company and the Phương Mai Wind Power Company will invest a total of $60 million in the plant, the first of its kind in Bình Định. With 12 turbines, the Phương Mai Wind Power Plant number 1 will be able to generate 82 million kilowatt-hours per year. Investors in the plant have signed a contract to sell electricity to National Power Utility, Electricity of Vietnam, for 1,600 Vietnam đồng per kilowatt-hour. The plant will make a major contribution to the development of clean energy in Vietnam when it starts operations in the second quarter of 2012.
And that comes to the end of the news today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.